Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from the Netherlands is Kim Hinsch. Hi, Kim. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. So Kim calls herself an agile enthusiast that has been stung by the power of games, communication, and psychology. As she puts it, she practices every day the fine art of making magic happen the agile way. And what makes her heart beat faster is supporting teams and organizations on their magical journey across the hills of excellence and effectiveness. That was a very poetic bio I found. So thank you for that. That kind of lightens up my day, Kim. But tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Well, I'm Kim. I'm a mother of two, and I live in a city nearby Rotterdam. And I've been an official Scrum Master now for 4 years. I started in 2017. And it's pretty funny because at the company that I was working at, they introduced Scrum or Agile in 2014. And my manager at that moment, I was one of the test coordinations. And my manager at the moment asked me, listen, they're doing Agile over there. And can you try and find out whether it's something that we can also get into? Because I hear everyone saying it's the future. So can you try and find out? So I had some talks, and I tried and found out whether me as a tester or test coordinator could fit in that agile way of working. And I came back to my manager. I was like, no, let's not do that. That's going to be awful. No, let's not, because that's going to be so inefficient for us. So yeah, unfortunately, he didn't listen to me. And we as a testing club also had to start doing Agile. But I was just one of the people in the team doing the Agile, doing the stand-ups, doing the ritual, as the old book said. And then all of a sudden, one of the colleagues in 2017 was retiring. And my manager once again asked me, hey, listen, your Scrum Master is retiring. I need someone else to do this. And you're kind of the only one that I think that can do it. Would you mind doing it? I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. This isn't the way forward. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to throw all my balls away. So sure, manager, I'll do it. But I'm going to be doing it my way, because the way we're doing it now isn't the way we should be doing it. And that is when I was actually stung by the agile way of working, because then I got my PSM2, I did my proper workshops, I did a lot of training, looked around in the field, and then I was like, now I know why I didn't like it before, because it was implemented completely wrong. Now I'm going to do it my way, which I say is the right way. And then, from there, all the chaos and magic happened, and I became a Scrum Master with all my games and all my fun and all the different aspects of working Scrum, working Agile that happened.
That's a beautiful story. And so you started as a skeptic, and I did too. Like I did my first Scrum project to prove that Scrum didn't work.
Exactly.
I said, I will do it by the book to show it doesn't work, and then ended up becoming, well, as you said, stung by the power of communication, psychology, collaboration. I wasn't so much into the games at that time, but other aspects like better conversations, not having to write endless documents, and so on and so forth. But of course, today's Monday, so we're talking about failure. So this is not all the magic of power and games. Sometimes it is quite hard to be a Scrum Master. And we want to explore one of those stories because, of course, we want to learn from it. But before we dive into the learning, Kim, tell us that story of a moment where you as a Scrum Master, you struggled. And of course, you came out the other way and you learned. But that struggle is important for us to understand so that we can avoid that in our own work. So tell us that story, Kim.
Well, to be honest, I think my main learning has been not just doing the job, but definitely looking also at how others do the job and learn from it, and that makes you more capable. Like residencies in a hospital, or at least like the Grey's Anatomy shows. First learn all the theory, then see how teams really function, watch what happens, get even more theory, but then in the practice, and then start doing it yourself. I thought I knew it all in the beginning. I did my PSM1, I did my PSM2, so hey, I'm completely certified. I know everything. But obviously, I didn't, and therefore I chose either wrong formats or wrong solutions that really weren't the proper way to go forward.
Can you give us an example of that? Like how did that feel like in the shop floor?
Once I had a really hardcore IT team. They were skeptical of what does a Scrum Master do? I mean, the Scrum Master just comes and bring me coffee, right? And asks me how my day was. And in the end, what I thought they wanted was a workshop on what are the roles, what are the functions, who does what. So I set up a whole workshop with them to try and get them to really live through what does it mean to have a Scrum Master, what can you expect? But that's not what they wanted. They wanted team agreements. They wanted to know how do we work together in the most broad sentence. So not only me.
So how did you figure that out though? Like I imagine you go to the workshop, you have those explanations about what to expect from a Scrum Master, from a product owner, and so on. And how did they react? Like how did you figure out this was not what they needed?
Basically, just by communicating. I saw that they were not really interacting with me. I saw that they were distracted. They were working on their phones. They even got their laptops up. So I was like, okay, something's wrong here. So I just asked them. I bluntly asked them, guys, what's happening here? I'm doing what you guys wanted. And then they gave me feedback. No, this is not what we wanted. We want this and this. Okay, so my wish was too big for what this team really wanted. So I just, by communicating and by asking them, what is it, by actually having the conversation, we came to a rounded a team agreement.
This is one of the things that, I imagine most Scrum Masters are scared of, right? Like you go into a workshop and suddenly nobody cares. Right, it's like that dream of waking up when you're anxious and then you dream that you're naked in front of the class or whatever, right? So it's like, okay, so for Scrum Masters, I imagine this is one of the nightmares, right? Like I start the workshop, I have the games, I have the facilitation ready, and crickets, nobody cares,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So, and you had the advantage of being a Dutch person, so you could just bluntly ask. But some of our friends out there may not be able to just bluntly ask. So I want you to walk us through, like use your memory to walk us through the actual steps you went through in the conversation to get to what they needed, right? Because that's what we want as Scrum Masters. Okay, this isn't working. I can ask for feedback, but what were the actual steps that you were going through, with the blunt question at first, but then the conversation? What were the steps you were going through to analyze what they were really needing at that point?
Well, first of all, I was completely taken aback. So I kind of claimed a 5-minute coffee break. So I said, guys, this isn't working. I hear what you're saying. I see what's happening. Please give me one moment. I have to regroup. I have to try and find out what the next step is. So I took the 5-minute break, and basically I just had a couple of talks with single members in the team. I did choose the people that are most outspoken because I thought I don't have too much time to do the warm up with the more introvert people. So I chose for the more extrovert people this time. And I just asked them, okay, so listen, if you were me, what would you start doing now? Because I'm kind of struggling. I just bared up my soul. I was like, here's the fragile me. I don't know. I'm looking. So then they basically gave me some advice. They just told them, yeah, but listen, what I really want as a team member is to know, how am I going to ask that person to do the work? What can I expect from you within a certain daily, maybe, or within a certain discussion, or in a certain setting, or in this event that we are in? How do I know that what I can ask to whom? So when the 5-minute coffee break was over, I just explained to everyone, listen, I spoke to that person and that person and that person. Am I correct in assuming that what you really want is to understand how we're going to act together during the daily? And then everyone just started nodding. Okay, and that way I first went from first the daily over to all the other events, and then I resumed and looked back at, okay, are there any other agreements that we would like to take along in this discussion? And then we also talked about, okay, but what about our standby, or what about the working process? So yeah, but let's say there's an impediment after the daily. How do we fix that situation? They just opened up and became very willing to help me to find out what they really needed. And this was a conversation including the introverts, because they kind of also got the voice, because the extroverts had already opened up the door. And that was a really cool process to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just, gripped by the story as you were telling it now, because that's actually something many of us face, right? So, you prepare the workshop, you're ready to go, and suddenly things don't go as you expect. So what do you do then? And I think you gave a great example of a mantra we've repeated here on the podcast many times, which is, take it to the team. All right.
Exactly.
I'm at a loss. I don't know what to do. What would you guys do in my shoes? Right. And by
Exactly.
creating that attitude of, trying to help and asking for advice, you kind of turned what was potentially a bad situation into a very positive and, a situation that ended up delivering something of value for the team, because that's what they were thinking about. That's what they needed. That was a great story, Kim. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Monday is about what we learn from our obstacles and our failures. But tomorrow is Team Tuesday here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We explore teams and their journeys, the habits they develop that threaten their performance, how each of our guests helped their teams evolve, and the one key lesson they learned from that experience. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.